I still remember the exact moment the valley turned against me. Helen's scream cut through the morning like a rusty blade as she stumbled back from the edge of the old lake, her face the color of bleached bone. For 6 straight months, this HOA president had buried me under fines, threats, and rules that would make a prison warden blush. She honestly believed she owned every blade of grass in the county. What she never counted on was that I had forgotten something crucial about this land, and the second I remembered, her entire world came crashing down. The gravel popped under my tires as I eased the pickup down the long driveway for the first time in 20 years. My grandfather, Henry Miller, had passed 6 months earlier, and it took me that long to summon the courage to leave my software gig in Chicago and claim what he left behind. The farmhouse looked exactly as I remembered, white clapboard gone gray with age, porch sagging on the north corner where the foundation had settled decades ago. But the fields were gone. In their place stood perfect rows of identical homes, each lawn trimmed to the same height, each mailbox the same shade of forest green. Maple Crest community signs stood like sentries at every corner. The shock hit me like cold water in January. I parked beside the ancient oak where Grandpa used to hang my tire swing and stepped out into air thick with cut grass and hot asphalt. Somewhere a mower droned its suburban hymn. The screen door still squealed the same rusty note as I hauled the first box inside. Dust floated in shafts of afternoon light through windows that had not been washed since the funeral. The house felt empty, waiting. What I did not expect was the avalanche of legal papers covering the kitchen table: deeds, surveys, lawyer letters, county notices. Tomorrow, I told myself. Tomorrow I would make sense of it all. That was when the white Escalade rolled in like a shark smelling blood. The woman who stepped out moved like she expected the ground to salute. Mid-40s, razor-sharp blonde bob, navy blazer despite the 90-degree heat, clipboard clutched like a sword. A gold badge read HOA President. Her heels clicked across the dirt with military precision. Mr. Miller. Her voice carried the tone of someone used to instant obedience. This property is in violation of multiple community covenants. Peeling paint, overgrown vegetation, visible farm equipment. The list is extensive. I set my box down and walked to the porch rail. Ma'am, this is my family's farm. Been in the Miller name since 1924. She consulted her clipboard with theatrical flair. Helen Whitaker, president of the Maple Crest Homeowners Association. Your grandfather executed binding covenants in 2018. Noncompliance triggers daily fines, liens, and possible foreclosure. The word foreclosure landed like a boot to the chest. I had just inherited the place, and already someone was threatening to steal it. I need to review any documents. 72 hours, she said, handing over a thick packet. Fines begin at $200 per day. She clicked back to her SUV and drove off, leaving me holding what felt like a death warrant. That night, I sat surrounded by Grandpa's papers, trying to decode legalese that might as well have been Martian. One phrase kept repeating: voluntary compliance. My phone rang at 9 sharp. Unknown number. Mr. Miller, this is Claire Evans, your grandfather's attorney. He left instructions to call once you were settled. MS. Evans, this HOA president showed up today, threatening foreclosure. What exactly did Grandpa sign? A long pause. Henry was a strategic man. He said you would remember what matters most about that land when the time was right. Give it time. Read his journals. And do not let anyone bully you. You hold more cards than you know. The line went dead. I stared at the survey maps until my eyes burned, then fell asleep with my head on a 1924 plat showing 200 acres of Miller land stretching clear to the county road. Morning brought slamming car doors. Through the kitchen window, I watched Helen return with 2 men in polo shirts carrying cameras and tape measures. They swarmed the property like IRS auditors. I stepped outside with my coffee. Morning, Helen. She glanced up from her inspection sheet, lips thin. Daily fines commence today. 200 for paint, 100 for landscaping, 50 for equipment visibility, 350 per day until compliance. The math punched me in the gut. 10 grand a month. Then I saw the map attached to her notice. According to it, the HOA claimed jurisdiction over 80% of what I had always known as Miller land. My blood went cold. This boundary is wrong. Her smile could slice bread. Check your facts, Mr. Miller. Welcome to the neighborhood. That week became a daily ritual. Every dawn at 7:30, Helen and her crew arrived. They photographed dandelions, measured mailbox setbacks, cited me for laundry on the line. By Thursday, the fines topped $1,000. The psychological siege was worse than the money. Neighbors watched from behind curtains. Old Mrs. Larson next door caught my eye once and gave a small nod of sympathy. "She's done this to everyone," she whispered while Helen photographed my mailbox 3 inches too close to the line. The Petersons repainted their house twice because she changed the color palette. $12,000. Be careful. She's had families evicted. Evicted. The word lodged in my throat like a fishbone. That evening I descended into the basement for the first time since returning. The air smelled of old wood and tractor grease. In a box labeled property records, I found surveys from 1924 showing the full 200 acres, tax receipts proving I paid on 147, in Grandpa's journals. One 2018 entry stopped me cold. Let them build their little kingdom. The boy will understand when ready. Sometimes you teach power by letting others believe they possess it. A memory surfaced. Age 10, sitting on the workbench while Grandpa fixed a combine. "Why do you let the new folks boss everyone?" His answer had been a riddle then. "Sometimes you let people reveal themselves, Jack. Then you decide what kind of neighbors you want." The tax records were the smoking gun. I paid on every acre Maple Crest sat upon. Community center, playground, parking lots, decorative pond. All of it. My phone buzzed. "Helen, structural engineer arrives Monday to assess your barn. Non-compliant structures will be demolished." She was threatening to tear down a century-old barn on land she now knew I owned. Tactical mistake of the century. I gathered the documents and drove to Claire Evans's office. Dark wood, leather-bound law books, the smell of old money. She studied the papers like a surgeon. "Your grandfather left you a legal masterclass," she said finally. "He researched adverse possession, unauthorized improvements, HOA formation requirements. Give me 2 weeks. Meanwhile, document every threat." Driving home, the pieces clicked. Grandpa had watched for 20 years as Helen turned borrowed authority into tyranny. He documented every abuse, waiting for me to finish what he started. That night, I called Robert Hayes, Grandpa's oldest friend. At 85, he still split his own firewood. "Jack, I wondered when you'd call. Your grandfather and I planned for this day." He met me on his porch with sweet tea. Maple Crest was supposed to go on Peterson land 2 miles south. Developer went bust. Permits got rubber-stamped without ownership checks. Henry let it happen to see what kind of people would grow on Miller's soil. He handed me a key. Opens the strongbox behind his bedroom shelf. The farmhouse felt different as I climbed the stairs. The oak bookcase slid aside to reveal a 1940s floor safe. Inside, original 1924 deed, 50 years of tax receipts, building permits issued without Miller consent, and a letter in Grandpa's handwriting. "Jack, if you're reading this, Helen Whitaker has shown her true colors. I could have stopped them 20 years ago with one phone call. Instead, I waited to see if they would honor the land and its history. Helen failed every test. The choice is yours. Evict them all or teach them how to be real neighbors. Power reveals character. Use yours wisely." Henry. I sat on the floor until 3 a.m., surrounded by proof that the community center, playground, tennis courts, entrance gates, all built with HOA dues on Miller land, belonged to me. Friday at 8 sharp, I parked my dusty truck in front of Helen's McMansion. She answered in her navy blazer armor. "This is about land ownership," I said, spreading the 1924 survey. Every structure in Maple Crest was built without permission on Miller property. Her laugh was sharp. "We have permits, site plans. Permits issued to the wrong owner are void." I unfolded the annotated boundary map. "Care for a tour?" We walked the development while I pointed out every illegal improvement. At the playground, kids swung on equipment that cost the HOA 30 grand. Helen's face drained of color. "You can't claim our entire community. I'm documenting continuous ownership since 1924. The question is what we do next." Back at her HOA office, she shifted to bargaining. "What do you want? Money? Reserve funds. Stop the harassment. Refund illegal fines. Reasonable ground lease at $50 a month with democratic governance." Her eyes blazed. "Extortion. We'll fight you in court." "Do it fast," I said. "Because if you touch my barn, the gloves come off. Monday morning, Claire served 30-day trespass notices on every common area structure plus lease offers to every homeowner. By noon, my phone exploded. Helen called an emergency meeting in the community center she had just been ordered to vacate. The room was packed, air thick with fear and fury. Helen stood at the podium in full battle regalia. "We face an attack by a fraudster trying to steal our homes." She painted me as a con man, offered zero counter-evidence. The crowd roared approval. Then the chairman recognized me. I projected the 1924 survey. Gasps. Tax records. Silence. Lease terms. $50 versus $400. Democratic board. No more arbitrary fines. "Why didn't Henry stop it 20 years ago?" a woman asked. "Because he wanted to see what kind of neighbors you would be." The mood flipped. Questions turned thoughtful. When the vote came that night, 85% signed the lease. Helen grabbed my arm as I left. "Please don't destroy everything I built." "You built a prison, Helen. I'm offering freedom." 3 days later, neighbors called wellness checks. Police found Helen barricaded in her bedroom with 3 days of bottled water and HOA files, convinced I had sent federal agents. She was taken out on a stretcher screaming about constitutional violations. Her husband David returned from a business trip to a transformed neighborhood and a wife on psychiatric hold. Without Helen, the community exhaled. Clotheslines appeared. Backyard swing sets. A community garden replaced her perfect flower beds. Fees dropped $350 a month. Families took vacations, fixed roofs. An elected board rotated seats, term limited, transparent. 3 months later, Helen returned, medicated, quiet, wearing jeans and a soft ponytail. She knocked on my door holding coffee. I came to apologize. We sat on the porch where the nightmare began. "I lost perspective," she said. "What started as protecting property values became a throne. I punished anyone who questioned me." Healing took time. She wrote personal apology letters with restitution checks. The Petersons got $12,000 for forced repaints. Others received refunds for phantom violations. Some forgave, some kept distance. Helen accepted both. 18 months later, a water main burst. The new board floundered. Someone suggested Helen's logistical skills. She coordinated repairs for 2 weeks, but refused decision-making authority. The crisis ended ahead of schedule, under budget. Gratitude was unanimous. She became community ombudsman, mediating disputes, helping seniors with taxes, blocking a developer who wanted to pave the valley. She spoke at national conferences. "No one ever told me no." Good intentions without accountability become tyranny. 2 years to the day after the eviction notices, I stood on the same porch watching sunrise over a farmer's market in the community center lot. Children learned to plant tomatoes from the woman who once measured grass with a ruler. Property values were up 15%, crime non-existent, neighbor surveys off the charts. A black sedan pulled in. Michael Brennan from Pinnacle Development offered $3.2 million for a 99-year lease on undeveloped acres, senior housing, small retail, green space. I told him the community decides. That night, 90% voted to negotiate with ironclad resident protections. Helen was nominated community land steward. "I know exactly how power corrupts," she said. "Now I will spend my life making sure it serves instead." The vote was unanimous. Standing on the porch with my coffee, watching Helen teach kids the difference between pests and pollinators on land that remembers everything, I raised my mug to Grandpa's wisdom, Helen's courage, and a valley that chose healing over hatred. What about you? Have you ever seen petty authority turn toxic, or watched someone redeem themselves after causing real harm? Drop your story in the comments. Let's talk about where justice ends and vengeance begins, and whether some wrongs can ever truly be made right.